Hey, Forrest, good to see you.
Hey,
Thanks for
Jen.
hopping on. We're talking about powerful conversations today, and I'm going to go ahead and record this because we are double booked with another class, and some people couldn't make it today. So, scripts are nothing more than powerful conversations, and a script is most useful when we understand the reasoning behind it, and we understand that people choose a real estate agent because of three things: they know that person, they like that person, they trust that person. Now we want to figure out, well, how do we make a great first impression when we're talking to a buyer for the first time or a seller and we want to become their client? Well, we don't know them. So we can't do the first one, which is know them. That comes with follow up and with staying in contact with somebody. However, we can get them to like us and to trust us. And I was saying, I don't think you guys are going to have much trouble in the whole getting people to like you department. Um, for other agents, it might be more difficult. And I would say, do you guys like people who are pushy salesmen?
Nope.
No, you don't. I don't either. When you go into a furniture store, what's your first instinct?
Walk away from that person who's pushing.
Walk
They won't leave
away,
you
get
alone.
away. Maybe I could go hide over here or something. So I hope that is a relief to you. You guys don't have to be pushy salespeople in this business. For me, that's a relief because I don't want to be a pushy salesman. That does not sound desirable to me at all. And if anything, it's going to push people away from you if you do that. So we don't have to go down that route. Secondly, people like people who are not self-absorbed. So your first instinct might be to talk all about yourself and why you're the best agent for them. And I mean, that's like when I first became a real estate agent, it's like I got to know how to tell them all about me and my business and la la la. However, people don't tend to like other people that talk about themselves a lot. Have you ever had that
True.
kind of encounter with a person who talks about themselves a lot?
Yes.
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 Cindy's like, yes. And we're like, I really don't want to hang out with that person because I don't think they even care what I have to say. So, likable people are not self absorbed. They're not talking about themselves the whole conversation. And I am guilty of this because I have so much going on my brain. Sometimes I just want to spill it all out. And sometimes I just have to learn to close the lips and listen. So we don't want the whole conversation to be about me, about you. It's about them. Because if we make it all about ourselves, they're not going to engage in the conversation. So it's not really a conversation. And worse yet, they might get the impression that we're conceited. And that's the last thing we want to happen. And then next, people like other people that are confident. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody that's extremely shy?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that exhausting or what?
Yeah.
It is very exhausting. Um, and I think sometimes, we're not even shy. It's just we're unsure of ourselves. So when we have those conversations, it can be a little strained and awkward because we're not confident. Um, so I, I would say if you're in a conversation, don't worry about saying the right thing. Or if you're going to say the wrong thing, just don't beat around the bush. Don't hem and haw. And I had to look up what hem and haw meant. It means you hesitate or are indecisive about what to say next. Because if you do that, people are going to walk away from the conversation feeling like it was awkward, it was strained. So my suggestion is to lean into the conversation, not away from it, because away means I'm afraid, right? Lean in shows that you're not afraid. Confidence also shows in your eyes and your body behavior. Have you ever seen fear in people's eyes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Fear, but
right.
also hesitancy. You see
Yes.
that quite often.
And we can reinterpret that to mean they're hesitant about me. Oh, they're really don't. They're not sure about me. We don't want people to think that at all, right? So
Mhm.
even though we're thinking, oh no, we like this person, it's just I'm so nervous that I'm coming across this way. If you're nervous or fearful, you might even avoid making eye contact. And that's one of the telltale signs of fear and lack of confidence. When you're confident in what you're saying, you have no fear about making direct eye contact with the person, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you find yourself struggling to make eye contact, of course, you don't want to be like piercing in their eye. I'm looking for the camera, piercing in their eyes the whole time like that, because that's going to really make them, you do need to look off. Just in general, make sure you're catching their eyes and looking in their eyes. It doesn't have to be a stare down, of course. That would also be awkward. So those are kind of in person. That's an in-person thing about, the eye contact and your body behavior. So what are some ways over the phone that you might communicate either confidence or fear?
Well, your voice can be very, what's the word I want to say? You're not flowing in your conversation. Your nervousness will show in your voice.
Will. And it will. The more you do it, the less nervous you'll be.
I think also just roundabout, like you said, him and hawing, like when you're not able to be direct and allow for those opportunities for the person you're speaking with to, have a chance to respond.
Right,
I think you need to, what I learned initially, through practice and also just going on a lot of appointments, talking with a lot of different individuals. It was always very important to kind of refine your script, whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person, but be able to deliver your intentions, like you said, being direct, Jen, and then from there, give them an opportunity to respond. That way they feel, important. They feel like they're not just, speaking to, like a conceited individual that's only going to, further promote themselves and not really care about, the person or, the client in question. But yeah, just got to be direct. And then from there, just, with the manner of your voice and everything else, just make sure that you're giving them an opportunity to talk so that they're
well put. Well put. That is why I have a lot. You'll see in the scripts I give you, you directly ask for the appointment. And I think our first instinct is, oh, that's coming on too strong. That's not coming on too strong. It's a simple question, hey, you want to meet today or tomorrow? Let's do this. And it's very good for us to be honest about our intentions. And then finally, people like people who come from contribution. And what does that mean to come from contribution? What's the difference between being a salesman or being a person who comes from contribution?
You contribute something, but you don't expect anything in return.
Okay.
If it's just a just a phone call, how are you? If there's anything going on in the family, you just give your condolences, or is there anything I can do for you? Do you need help in any area? Especially
that is
in real
very
estate.
good. Yes. And also there could be something in return because we want to make sure. So for example, say I have a dog training company, right? And I'm just thinking about my dog right now. And my dog is he's pulling on his leash. He's chewing up everything in the house, or somebody else's dog is doing that. And I see that, and I know that my services can help them. Is it good for me to tell them about my services or bad for me not to tell them?
Bad for you not to tell them.
Right, exactly. Like I'm super thankful I spent the money to get our dog trained, we can put him in the front yard and let him run around and we don't have to worry about it. So I am very thankful that product, was presented to me as to help me. So there's one where we're pushing ourselves on people because our motivation is to get more business, right? And then there's another one where, like, oh, wow, I see that you really need help here. I actually, have something that might help you. And it could be just simply a phone call. I have a listening ear and I really care about what's going on, or I have a service that I provide and it really has helped, most people are very thankful for this service that I provide. So that is kind of the difference take on it. And people can tell if you're coming from contribution or if you're coming from, I'm doing it for me and my business. So if you can kind of flip that in your brain, realize that you're not, when you're calling them, this isn't a sales call. This is a contribution call. I'm calling them because I have something that can help them, or I'm going to find out and see if there's some way that I can help. It might be something free, like some suggestions about something or telling them about the market. It might be one of the services that are paid for that I offer. And I would say, especially Cindy, those expired sellers need help for sure, right? So there's
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely. So you have you have that opportunity to help them see that you are coming from contribution. And then to find out how you can help them, we need to know what their big why is. We need to know what their motivation is. Why do they need to sell, right? Once you
Right.
know and you dig a little deeper, find out, oh, well, they need to sell because, oh my goodness, they're all of their family has just moved to Indiana and they've got grandchildren being born and they're missing out on life, right? And they need to sell and get over there. Now we know that we can be of assistance and we can start offering solutions to their problems. We're not there to create more problems for them for sure. We're there to offer solutions to their problems. So what are some big whys for sellers and buyers that you've heard?
Downsizing, or they're having more children, so they need more room, or they're
That's
moving
good.
out of the area because they do want to be near other relatives or health reasons, moving to different parts of the country.
Mhm. That's good. Tired of paying rent? That's a big why.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so it's important to understand their motivation, and then that way we can start figuring out solutions for them. So the first part is getting them to like you, and then the second part is getting them to trust you. And this part's pretty simple. People tend to trust people that they can talk to freely. It really is as simple as that. And this happens often without the other person even being aware that it's happening. All they'll remember is, so like all of you guys, I've talked to you guys freely in many different situations, right? I trust all of you. I don't know why. I just trust you because I know that I can talk to you. Pretty much that's what I'm judging it on. And I think I can trust you guys. And it's the same thing with people. If you can get them to open up to you and talk to you comfortably, you're going to gain their trust. It really is that simple. So how do we get people to open up to us? And so we can start by asking really good open-ended questions rather than yes, no questions. So I know like in one of my scripts, we ask, is it still for sale? Yes. Is it listed for this? Yes. That's just a warm up. And then we get into our open-ended question. So why did you choose to list with a real estate agent? No, why did you try to list for sale by owner rather than listing with a real estate agent? So that is it is an open-ended question. I would even change it from why. Why the word why that can make people feel very. How do you feel if I said, "Why did you decide to do that, Forrest?" How's that make you feel?
But it's not, it's like it's almost like a questioning of your judgment.
Yeah,
Like obviously
yeah.
there's a reason, you don't know the reason, that's part of the
It, yeah. Did you
the
get defensive?
conversation. Not defensive, but
Right.
I know what you mean. Some people may,
Right.
or they just simply may feel like they've had to answer that question,
Right.
the same question from many different people, and we'll
What
just
if I
say maybe
said?
a lot of realtors.
What if I said, okay, hey, Forrest, just curious, what made you choose to do it this way? How's that feel? Does that feel a little better?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't. So the why is a very kind of abrasive word. So if you can avoid the word why, I even said, no, your big why. We call it our big why. It's our big reason. To get to that, you might use a what question. So what's important to you about moving, or what's important to you about selling?
Hmm.
And when you're on the phone with a for sale by owner, what made you choose to list for sale by owner rather than listing it with a real estate agent? So we're finding out what their objections are. We're letting them open up to us, start start being comfortable with talking to us about their motivations, that's kind of a very, we're asking them to open up their mind and their heart to us. And when they start doing that, they start to feel comfortable. So dig deeper, ask them questions about them, let them open up and talk, be an active listener. Paying attention can be difficult sometimes. So if you're like me and you have a hard time, I have a little ADD, I think, squirrel, like I said earlier, I was talking to Cindy. Who was I talking to? I was like, oh, I already forgot what I was going to say because I had a little notification popped up. So if you're struggling to pay attention, try repeating back one of their answers when you hear it, just to make sure you're staying engaged. I think Forrest, you were telling me like with names, like you just repeat back their names. That helps you remember. So it's a great tool to use, that repeating back. Also, the beauty of asking questions is that the person asking the questions actually controls the conversation. Now, the person answering the questions, those open-ended questions are actually dominating the conversation because they're doing most of the talking. They're not controlling the conversation though. And your goal is to control the conversation, not to dominate. So for example, here's some open-ended questions and some starters that you can use. If you're talking to somebody, you could say something like, tell me more about whatever it is. Or if you're with a buyer, say you've got a new buyer and you're doing a quick consultation with them, or you're doing a showing and you're meeting them for the first time, you could ask, what features of this home interest you the most? Get them talking about the things that interest them. Or if they're thinking about buying or thinking about selling, what are some questions or concerns you have about whatever it is? Because now they're opening up about some of their fears, and that's can be, they're trusting you with that. So what are some other open-ended questions that you could think of?
Thinking.
And I kind of took all the good ones, sorry.
No, they were good ones.
And that's okay if you can't think of any. It's just something to think about. You could even start writing your powerful questions down and start rehearsing them so that when you are working with somebody, when you're on an appointment, on a listing appointment, think about what those conversations can be to get that person to open up to you. So now that we've got them to like us, we've got them to trust us, now we're going to have to actually do part of the sales work. And this is the part that, the other two parts I think are kind of easy. And, you all said, I don't like the in your face sales type. And I get that. However, we still are salespeople and we do have to eventually ask for the business, right? There are some powerful ways to ask for the business. I just got done reading a book called Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. I didn't read it. I listened to it on Audible. I highly recommend. It's a really quick read. I think or listen, it's about 2 hours, I think. And there's a list of dozens of phrases that salespeople use that are really powerful, and they have huge influence and impact on the person who's listening. So I pulled out a few of them just to kind of give you a taste of what that means. So here are some good real estate conversation starters, questions, phrases. One of them is, I'm not sure if it's for you, but. Now that includes a word that we really shouldn't use a lot. Do you know which word that is?
But.
But, okay. If I say to my kids, I love you, but.
Yeah, like there's an exception.
Yeah, right. It kind of negates whatever was before but. And the only thing the kids remember is I shouldn't even bother saying I love you because if anything, it just makes them think, well, that was a pointless phrase mom just said. I love you, but you got to clean that room or whatever. Or if you get an email from your boss and it says, you are doing a fantastic job, but we have some things we need to talk about. Do you believe the first half of the sentence, or are you feeling doubt about your performance?
Doubt.
Yeah, doubt. The word but is a very crushing word. So we do try we do intend to avoid that word as much as possible unless we're using it very strategically. And this is one of those cases. If I say to you, I'm not sure if it's for you, but my marketing plan gets home sold, faster and for more money than you can any other way. Is that something you would consider? As soon as I say, I'm not sure it's for you, but we're so conditioned to negate whatever was before, but. And now it's kind of flipping in their mind, well, this might be something I need to listen to, right? Um, so it's very powerful because, people don't want to be told, well, if it's not for me, I'll decide if it's for me or not.
Yeah.
What's some other things if you want them to consider Keller Mortgage, because then they'll become your clients. I'm not sure if it's for you, but I have a lender at our office who can get you, a zero lender fees on your loan. You're more likely to listen to that. Another word that's great to use is open-minded. Do you guys want to be known as an open-minded person or a closed-minded person?
Open-minded.
Open-minded? Why?
Open.
Well, you just want to be able to, be empathetic or just simply understand, where they're coming from, and also be firm in where your standpoint is and where you're coming from.
Right.
To
Maybe
be
you're
able to
on
help them in the best way.
a phone call with an expired and you say, would you be open-minded enough to having me come over and tell you more about what I do to get homes sold?
It's not
But
bad.
that's kind of like if they say no, now they're like, well, I guess I'm closed-minded, right? So that is a great way to get an appointment with somebody. If you're trying to make it a little harder for them to say no. And remember, you're coming from contribution, so don't feel bad about doing this because they do need to hear what you have to say. Another one is, how would you feel if? The word feel is a powerful word because now people make decisions both on logic and emotion. So even though they may logically decide something, if it doesn't feel right, they're not going to do it. So we need to help people feel something. And that feel is usually going to be have to do with something about a loss. So people, they work harder to avoid a loss than to move towards a gain. And does anybody know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I understand. It's just it's tough to put into words, but yeah.
It is tough, right? So we will avoid pain at all costs. That's just what we do. However, we won't necessarily run towards something positive. Like I could run towards, having a great physique and strong and be able to lift things. And I would love to do that. However, I avoid the pain even more than I run towards the goal. What the pain is actually having to get out and do it. And it's the same thing with people you're talking to. If you can get them to feel the pain of their decision of not listing with you, that's going to be, very powerful. So, how would you feel if your home doesn't sell in 3 months? How would you feel how would you feel if you then had to drop the price? Um, how would you feel if, you had to only, take instead of choosing among multiple offers, you have to just settle for whatever somebody offers and that's all you have to work with. How would you feel if that happened? So there's, a lot of ways you can get them to feel. And this kind of ties together with the next phrase, which is just imagine. So not only do they have to feel to make that decision, they also have to imagine themselves doing it because you ever hear somebody said, I couldn't imagine ever doing that. If you can't see yourself doing something, are you ever going to do it?
Rarely.
I can't see myself ever jumping out of a plane with a parachute. I just can't see myself doing it. Am I likely to do it?
No.
No. My husband, he fantasizes about jumping out of planes with parachutes, and he talks about it all the time. And I just like, I am confident one of these days he's going to jump out of an airplane with a parachute because he can see himself doing it. He envisions it. I just see myself maybe just going splat on the ground or something. So just imagine. So now we already figured out their big why, what their motivation is. Now we can help them tap into their imaginations, right? Just imagine when you are in Florida and you don't have to worry about this terrible weather. Just imagine when you're living closer to your family and you're able to hold your grandchildren and have them come over. Just imagine when you don't have this huge house to walk up and down and clean, or just imagine when all your kids don't have to share a bedroom and they can each have their own room. That's a powerful word, because if you tell somebody just imagine, what do you automatically do?
Start to think about exactly what that person's saying.
Yeah, you start creating these pictures in your mind. Maybe you start to envision a house that has separate bedrooms for your kids. You're moving into now the ability to make a powerful decision.
And visualize. It's like
Mhm.
visualizations, I mean, in so many parts of success, whatever that looks
Yeah.
like for
Yep.
anybody.
Yep. So that's a very powerful phrase. The next one is, I bet you're a bit like me. This is a great phrase to use when you're talking with a stranger. If you're calling a for sale by owner, I bet you're a bit like me and you don't want to overpay for anything. Because what does that do? Can they then later down in the conversation bring up, I don't want to pay for anything? You've already addressed that objection, right? You've already said, I completely like get where you're coming from. I wouldn't overpay for something either. I bet you're a bit like me and you want, to make the most amount of money possible, right? So those are all questions or statements that kind of handle objections that come up later. So they're anticipatory of future objections, and it kind of takes the pow out of that objection, which is inevitably going to come. When an objection comes, here's a great way to respond. So this is the next one. What makes you say that? So our first inclination when somebody gives us an objection, for me, I'm ready to go to the floor and fight this out, right? Our first inclination is to argue with them and to get defensive. Like, well, I am not paying you guys all that money for you guys don't do hardly anything. Your first instinct might be to prove why we deserve that money. Instead, turn it around and ask, what makes you say that? So now they have to justify what they're saying. And what did we say about the person who asks the questions does what to the conversation?
Controls it.
They control the conversation. An objection is a question. They're questioning you. So as soon as they raise an objection, they just took control of the conversation. And we need to take control back. So we in turn ask a question. What makes you say that? And now you're back in control, and they have to they have to give support for what they said. And it's not defensive, it's not aggressive. It actually comes across as you really caring to know, what makes them say that. And that gives you more information so that you can respond in a better way. The worst thing you can do is become defensive. And then the last great phrase that I got from this book is a favor. Or you could state this question: could you do me a small favor? Hey, Forrest.
Yeah.
Could you do me a small favor?
Sure.
Hey, Jessica.
Yes,
Could you do me a small favor?
absolutely.
Cindy, could you do me a small favor?
If I can.
There you go. So you're either going to get yes or, well, if I can, or, well, it depends what it is. More than likely, they're going to say yes. And they don't even know what you're asking yet. It's super powerful. This is great for asking for referrals. We are calling your sphere, for asking people to just consider what you're saying. Hey, could you just do me a small favor? Would you take some time to think about this? Or, hey, could you do me a small favor? I'm working on building my business, and would you, when you think of anybody that's looking to buy or sell, could you give them my name? Um, so you already got them to say yes. Now you feel, did you feel a commitment to me when I asked that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you all felt committed to me. Nice. So that's what you're going to do. And that's the power of asking the right questions and using the right phrase in a way to have influence. So what are some ways for your lead generation this week you think you might put some of this into practice?
Every call.
Okay, good.
And actually, reaching out to a few people that I believe had potentially called me back. I have to listen to the voicemail, but
Great.
just being willing to, utilize some of those techniques to extend the conversation in the right manner. I feel like a lot of times, and I'll make this quick, but you know, I feel that urgency to kind of not keep somebody on the phone for too long. So I almost, I don't want to say sell myself short, but you cater to the individual or you cater to the situation. And like I said, you get your point across, but then you're willing to, hey, I don't want to take too much of your time. Just feel free to reach out, if you if you can, in the next
Yeah,
couple days and let me know. Like that's all well and good if it's necessary and the conversation leads that way. But I think with some of these open-ended questions and just additional means to kind of get them to believe in you and believe in the contribution that you're making, are going to be huge to just kind of essentially get them to come around and do that simple favor for you, or have you come out and you know allow them, a chance to listen to your pitch and
I love
your
it.
service.
I love it. And we did not, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here. So we're not recording this next part.